the garden. We have one. Let's go check it out. So I was going to do a late summer update. However, last night we had a guest and we determined that it jumped over the fence here. And based on those tracks, we're saying it's a baby deer. There's a little tracks right there. Or whatever, I don't know what size of deer are here, but this is our peach or apricot tree, and it had a snack. And then it found our garden. Now, hopefully it doesn't come back, but if I was that deer, I'd come back. So I was hoping not to share our stuff until it was a little bit more thorough, maybe 1 month from now. But look at that, chomping down on the lettuce. Took a bite of a tomato plant. Let's see. Few carrot tops. Had itself a lovely buffet. And la piece de resistance, one of our beautiful spaghetti squashes. This is pretty sizable. And I completely ate this one. This is our peach tree, and it's alive, so that's good. The bucket is an irrigation system the husband made. The peach tree is still alive, but it was eaten a lot by the deer. This is our Russian sage. It flowered. Very pretty. I believe this is the gooseberry or yellow currant, one or the other. One of them died. This is our plum tree. It's doing a little rough, but it's still alive, so we're hopeful. And a bee balm. Only one of the bee balms survived. This is our golden delicious. We got a few apples from it, and they should be ripe by the end of the month. Again, the bucket system that the husband made to let water go down deeper. This is our Honeycrisp. Not much has changed since we've planted it, but it's alive, so that's good. Our compost piles, we have finished that pile. We're gonna let it sit, and we're starting a new pile. Here are some of our scraps from us and our neighbors, and we're shredding them so they can compost faster. You can see this is something we've started with our food scraps. So we did this in Oregon and it worked pretty well, but since food scraps are pretty stinky, we want to compost them a little bit before we add them to the bigger compost, which has less protection, and our wonderful water collection system. We have decided to expand the fire pit. Here, we've only been working on this a few days, but we're taking rocks from our nearby pile and just expanding it. This grate I actually made using some wire, and these metal things are repurposed from a chain link fence. So we burned some mail and some paper product in there, but it works pretty good. The dogs don't like to walk on the stones, so that's also good to keep them kind of away from it. We have put in some of these stepping stones, which are wonderful, but they're not in their permanent location, so that's why they're above the ground and not in the ground. Tripping hazard, be careful. Here we can see some of the natural weeds, these tumbleweeds, these spiky things, seem to inhibit the growth of the clover. So over here I had weeded, and you can see the kind of goal of what we're trying to accomplish with this clover yard. And we also have a bunch of wild sunflowers, which the bees love. They gather so much pollen from these wild sunflowers, and they seem to mind their own business. We got a ton of wildflowers. I threw random wildflower mix, and you can see we got just like a whole variety of flowers throughout the year. Here are our mammoth sunflowers. They're just about ready to harvest. They have to ripen, so they look like they're dying. They are, but they are ripening. The seeds are getting harder, and in a few days they should be ready to eat. This was a surprise. We planted a bunch of different beans. These are black beans, so stay tuned for, what they'll look like. They're just about ready to harvest. You cannot eat raw black beans. This is Indian rice grass that's been used by the natives as a gluten-free flour alternative, and so it's a native plant you can eat. Here's our toad abode. We haven't seen our toad in a while, but we're hopeful. It's there if he needs it. Our potatoes are also coming to the end of the season. The top parts have to die back to then put all the nutrients into the tubers of the potatoes that we'll harvest later. Our three sisters, it looks like it's struggling because it's the end of the season, but we got plenty of beans, so many wax beans and purple green beans. We got about 3 different spaghetti squash. This is the decoy from the deer. We decided to leave it there. We also got a couple of pumpkins that we are looking forward to using. A lot of our corn was eaten by the deer.
Whoops.
What's it taste like?
It's like sour, actually.
This is a olive Russian, which is a wild invasive plant, but we're happy to have anything grow here. The deer ate it. We couldn't seem to grow any sizable watermelons larger than the size of a grape. They just kept disappearing. We don't know if it's the deer or we had some stink bugs. Our lettuce, we got a few harvests of lettuce and they were super delicious. Lettuce tastes so much better when harvested in the morning. Our carrots, which look like Queen Anne's lace, but Queen Anne's lace will kill you, so don't eat that. We got plenty of carrots and we're going to harvest some very soon. We planted in an L-shaped fashion. Our cucumbers, I wasn't expecting to get any cucumbers, but we got a few small harvests of cucumber plants. And these are green onions, spring onions from the store, and you can see our onions we planted only became the size of these like pearl onions. Maybe the ground was too compact, I'm not certain. So we planted a lot of our plants late, and as such, they're struggling to fruit and bloom on time. But our beefsteak tomatoes is what they are, tend to only be about the size of plum tomatoes, which is fine. We got a lot of different squashes. There's acorn squash, but the shield beetles, the stink bugs, seem to really like the acorn squash, so that was a pest problem. And we got a 3 to 4 butternut squash, which the husband likes to use for soup stock. And again with the pumpkins we mentioned earlier, so we had a pretty good squash harvest. And our biggest surprise was this area. We just planted the leftover nursery plants, and so we got a ton of cherry tomatoes and some really stunted sage. However, it did grow, so maybe next year we'll get some better sage. And something I was very surprised of, which was these little green peppers. So this is a quick before and after. A lot more green. Thanks for joining us for today's update.